So here we are before the pagan Christians' so-called Holy Week, which everybody knows. Everybody knows. It is common knowledge that paganism, disguised as they say, Christianity, is what it is. Everybody knows this. I'll go to my YouTube channel in just a minute and show you how easy it is. I think there's a search where you can search a particular YouTube channel to find certain videos. But I'm going to show you today 5 different videos that I had done over the years that you can look at right now. Me debunking with the scripture and with history the whole Easter phenomenon. But what I want to do today is I want to point out to the whole world how insufferably unwilling to believe the truth, to listen to the truth, even though the truth has been set in front of you like food at the table. And I usually do not do this, but yes, I do go on social media, Facebook, but not Instagram, TikTok, or stuff like that. Just Facebook, okay? So what I want to do is I want to show you something. Like I said, I usually don't do this, and I usually don't expose names. But you know what, folks? It's time. So he goes and posts this. Did you know Google's graphic processor is named Adreno and their web browser is called Chrome? And he put 666 on it. So I responded, but the number of the beast is associated with the number of a man's name, not with Chrome or adenochrome. Revelation 13 verse 8. Here is wisdom, let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. And his number is 666. We know that this man is a counterfeit of the real Mashiach, and the real Mashiach's name is Yehoshua. So the fake Mashiach must have the number 666 somewhere on his name. It is therefore not the Bismillah, because the Bismillah is not associated with a man's name. And I mention this because I can't even remember the guy's name anymore. A Catholic fellow who's been going around churches, he is a former Muslim, going around claiming that the Bismillah is where the number of the beast is, and yet he failed to follow the specific instructions of Yochanan and Revelation to find out that the number of the beast is on the name of a man. That's what it says right here. Okay. The beast comes from the Mediterranean Sea. As it is written, it rises from the Abyssos. Well, Abyssos is the Greek word for the Mediterranean Sea. What empire rises out of the Mediterranean Sea to be the greatest power? That would be the Roman Empire. So the name of a man associated with the Roman imperial beast was the one name that the Romans came to worship. So what name is that? It was Xesus, Chi. X equals 600. G what appears to look like an E equals 60, and stigma, what appears to look like an S, equals 6. So the fraudulent name was spelled XES for nearly 1,300 years before a J was added to the English and Spanish languages, and they did it to hide the identity of the name of the beast. However, the Portuguese retained the spelling XES to this day. So this Jesus that all Christianity worships today is in fact the name of the beast. And of course, I even bring up the units right here. Here is X is 600. This E looking squiggly thing is 60. And this S looking number is 6. That's it. Okay? But what was his response? What was his response? And of course, I got to rub it in a little bit. His response was, have you ever considered that all that has been done fell right into his plan? So, changing the subject. No, I'm not going to change the subject. But I remember him saying, you consider that all has fell right into his plan. And that plan began in Genesis 3. I will go there in just a minute. So I answered back, have you not considered my last statement? Yehoshua literally means Jehovah is salvation. Jesus is also a compound word, which means Je, or I, as in I am, and sus means swine. So Jesus literally means I am a swine, which could coincidentally, or not, was the animal sacrificed to the abomination of desolation Zeus or Deuspiter in the temple by Antiochus IV the madman. And incidentally, Deuspiter is what the Romans today, the Christians, call, as they say, God the Father. There's a whole lot more where that came from. Better dust off your books and find out that the delusion is much greater than you ever thought. Christians actually hate the name Jehovah, and here is proof. This is copied from Wikipedia. The city of Wittenberg contains a Judensaw from 1305, and of course 1305 is the era of the Catholic Church before the Great Reformation, bringing about Protestantism. But this particular statement shows that both Protestantism and Catholicism all hated Shem Jehovah. 1305, on the facade of the Stadtkirche, the church where Martin Luther preacher portrays a rabbi who looks under the sow's tail and other Jews drinking from its tits. An inscription reading Rabbini Shem HaMeforesh, Latin and German orthography for Shem HaMeforesh of the Rabbi, mocking the tetragram, which is the explicit name, to be a pig. While they were worshiping a pig, they accused the Holy One of Israel, the Kodesh of Israel, to be a pig. The creator of all mankind, they called him a pig. Christianity did this. I pointed this out to him. I said, now let that sink in. They call the correct name a swine while literally worshiping a swine. This is utter madness and shall not be excused on Judgment Day. And I put the link right there. Now, there's the link. You can stop the video and type in the link and see it for yourself. Okay? But what was his answer? Henry, I already know that. I've had people's demons cry out on my presence, and I started using these other names, but I ended up back with the name Jesus. This is what convinces him to go back to Jesus, son of Satan, the name of the beast. Most people I talk to don't know those names, so I put those with Jesus so they understand. So this is how these people try to justify using the name Jesus. Remember, it is written, the judgment will come upon those people who have his name, the name of the beast, the mark of the beast, which is the cross, or the number of the beast. It's not all three, it's or. So they understand the transition you use, not everyone believes is correct. For instance, Jehovah, he says, is actual ancient Hebrew. I offer to you YouTube channels such as the God Culture and the whatever to cover transitions and concordances. He's offering those to me when I'm telling him the truth. You see. So he already knows, but he's going to use the name Jesus anyway. He has the name of the beast. Okay? And what I will do is I will go to the scripture. And this is, I'll get to this in a minute right here, all right? But these are all the, maybe I'll just do it now, show it to you. Easter celebrators will suffer the great tribulation. Here's proof. This is why, folks, you need to study. I have the scriptures, I have proof in each one of these videos. Easter turned Christianity into Sodom and Gomorrah. Christians worship the dragon on Easter. Here's proof. Easter, the queen of heaven. Easter is a multiple pagan abomination. So I have these 5 videos here. So what I wanted to now, do I remember what I was going to look for? I probably don't now. I should have went and gone there in the first place. But anyway, so what I want to do then is go to, I said I would go to the beginning and see, and he talked about everything fell into his plan. Yes, it did. Because he forewarned of this. He foretold this. Jehovah did. Not God. Not God, not Deus Pater. When he was speaking to the serpent after he pronounced judgment, and not the Lord God, it says Jehovah, Elohim, said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above the cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon your belly you shall go, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. And I will set enmity, or make you an enemy with the woman. Now we went over that just last week. Now the preachers will say, well, that's the reason why women hate snakes. No, folks. No. You see, when you do that, when you say that, you are being deceitful. You have to go to Revelation 12. Revelation 12. Always use Strong's Concordance, folks, because King James versions and the other versions of the Bible are the greatest frauds ever perpetrated on mankind. So, Yochanan had a vision. He had several visions. This is one of them. And there appeared a great wonder in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun. This is the woman he's talking about, Israel. And the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Well, Israel. That's Israel, not the European Union. The European Union is a counterfeit. They have 12 stars on their flag and a background of blue as the sky, as if somehow the European Union is that woman. But they are fakes, just like the idols that they worship. Okay, so it is Israel. Israel always had the crown of 12 stars and will remain when the kingdom comes to Jerusalem. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. Now remember, you have church folks going around claiming that the woman with the crown of 12 stars is the church. Since Yehoshua came before the church, how is that even possible? You people, you're deluded. And this is the reason why you go around. This is the reason why your society goes around claiming that somebody with a penis can be a woman. And there appeared another wonder in the sky, and behold, a great red dragon. Now, when you go into the Hebrew, oh well, you can see it right here, a huge serpent. So, enmity between the woman and the serpent. So the woman is Israel, or those who hold the title of Israel. Today the Jews do, but when the return of Yehoshua and the kingdom of Shemayim, the Melekim of Shemayim, all of lost Israel, of all the other tribes, are going to be brought back. So we have the serpent. What serpent? Well, you have that, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm dragon at the Vatican, I'm sorry. Red dragon at the Vatican. All right. You can see it here, and you can see it here. Can we get closer? Where is it? There it is, right there. So, the dragon is at the Vatican. This is the statue of so-called Pope Gregory the 13th. There it is right there, and it sits in the Vatican. So the beast that rises out of the Mediterranean Sea would be Europe. But it means all of the Gentiles, but Rome is in the lead. And its center is Rome. So, now we know that the dragon is representative in Rome, having 7 heads and 10 horns. We've gone over that the 7 heads are man, I forgot, forgetful, from Emperor Augustus all the way to Vespasian being the 8th. Okay? Vespasian being the 8th, he was of the 7. I believe it was Augustus. My memory is failing me here. And 10 horns, that we've gone over that as well. You can do a search and you can find that. And 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of the sky. That's the demon realm. And did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered. This was talking about Herod, who was half Edomite, King Herod, who was appointed to be ruler over Judea. For to devour her child as soon as it was born. And when she brought forth the man-child who was to rule the Gentiles. Rule the Gentiles. Okay? Rule. Rule. Govern. Okay? With a rod of iron. Now here's the thing. If you go in the scripture and you search rod of iron, that's bashing them to pieces. He's going to bash the Gentiles, all of them, to pieces with a rod of iron. Why? And her, why? I'll show you. And her child was caught up to Jehovah and to his throne, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared of Jehovah. But that didn't happen until the future. This is a summary of the whole book of Revelation. And the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared of Jehovah, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. This is when the 2 witnesses covered in the previous chapter, Revelation 11, are going to bring plagues upon the whole earth for 1,260 days, exactly as is written here. Match for match. You can't get around it. They're going to gather all Israel back home. Now, there was a war in the sky. Michael and his messengers fought against the dragon. Why? Because the man-child just rose up into Shemayim, and there was no room any longer for Satan. And he had to be cast down. And that's why the Jews, the ones who wear the 12 stars of Israel, were persecuted for these nearly 2,000 years. Right here, and the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth. He persecuted the woman who brought forth the man. He persecuted the Jews. Who were the ones doing the persecuting? The Christians, the Romans, the sons of Japheth. What? What do you mean, Henry? Before I go there, I'm going to show you this. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into a place where she is nourished for, it says, time and a half. Well, we read up here it was 1,203 score days, so that must mean 3.5 years, away from the face of the serpent. And then the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood. That's an invasion after the woman. So here the 2 witnesses are. They're bringing plagues upon the earth and demanding all Israel be brought home. And somewhere in that timeline, the invasion occurs. And they fail. And it says, and when the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of Jehovah, and have the testimony of Yehoshua HaMashiach. Who, I ask you? Very few have that testimony. And that was 2 witnesses. And they killed him, as you read in the previous chapter. So we go back here, and so what you're going to see here is this enmity between the serpent and the woman, is the enmity between the Gentiles that are central to Rome and Israel. That's what this is talking about. It shall smash your head with a rod of iron, and you shall bruise its heel. So who are the players in this battle? Well, we know it's Rome. This was a situation here. Genesis 9. So Shem and Japheth received a joint blessing, but these blessings were not going to happen at the same time. Why did they receive a joint blessing? Shem didn't receive any blessing. Shem was not cursed, but Shem was the one who committed this. People say it's an atrocity. It is absolute disrespect for his dad, Noah, is what he did. And I'll explain it to you what that disrespect was. And Noah began to be, it says, an Ish. Noah it can be, to bore, to wound, to dissolve. Okay, now watch this. Noah was a smasher man in a vineyard. In other words, he began to be a smasher of grapes. And he drank of the wine and became drunk. And he was uncovered inside his tent. Well, nobody needed to go inside his tent. He was, he was decent. He was inside his tent. That he didn't need to bother him. Let him sleep. He wasn't outside around parading around naked. He just didn't have any covers on in his bed. And Shem, the Ab of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his Ab and told his two brothers outside. He should never, that was his disrespect, telling his two brothers. He should have covered up Noah and went on his way and went about his business and shut his mouth, but he did not. And because of that, he lost out on a joint blessing, which the three of them should have received. And Shem and Yapheth took a garment and laid it upon their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their Ab. And their faces were backwards because they knew he was naked, so that they did not see his Ab's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son, or he perceived what his younger son did. And how did he know? Somebody probably told him, because younger son was yapping around. And then he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a son of servant shall he be in his brethren." Why would he just curse Canaan? Probably because he did not want to curse the other sons of Shem. That's my guess. But let me show you something concerning Shem and Yapheth. They got a joint blessing, but the timeline is different. The timeline matches what is in Genesis 3. He said, "Blessed be Jehovah Elohim of Shem. Canaan shall be his servant." But did he say, "Blessed be Jehovah Elohim of Yapheth"? No, he did not. Because although Yapheth listened to Noah concerning the ark, Yapheth was not a believer. Neither was Shem. Only Shem was. It says, Elohim shall enlarge. To open, be roomy. Now it says simple and deluded. Was Yapheth a delusional type? The Hebrew word pasah primarily conveys the idea of persuading or enticing someone, often with a negative connotation of deception or seduction. It can imply leading someone astray through flattery or deceit. In some contexts, it may refer to open or simple-minded, suggesting a lack of discernment or vulnerability to persuasion. Well, ain't that something? Now, so you have two meanings: to be wide, have the greatest amount of land, and also be seduced to evil because you are a simpleton, vulnerable to brainwashing. You see, folks, and it says, and he will dwell in the tents of... Wait a minute. How is his land going to be enlarged and end up dwelling in the tents of Shem, and Canaan being his servant in the days of his blessing? Well, because the sons of Japheth are the deluded ones today. They're the ones with the vast majority of the real estate around the world, and they are the most deluded. So in Genesis 10, you can see the table of nations. These are the generations of the sons of Noah: Shem, Ham, and Yapheth. And the sons of Yapheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Yavan, and Tubal, Meshech, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer: Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Yavan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. Now, Kittim is Crete, but Kittim also refers to, in Hebrew culture, all the islands around as well. Dodanim, that's somewhere in among the Greek Isles. Tarshish is on the lower coast of Portugal. Elisha, I'm not sure, can't remember where that is, but Yavan is Greece. All right, so that's those are the sons of Yavan. Okay, so the Greeks are of the islands, including the lower end of Portugal. Okay, now it says these are the coastlands of the Gentiles divided in their lands. So every time you read in the prophets about the coastlands of the sea, for instance, folks, Ezekiel 39, where it says he's going to send a fire on Magog and those who dwell carelessly in the coastlands of the seas, Mediterranean Sea. See, now, I did a couple of videos, or I did some videos. The beast is Euro-Christian Roman. Here's proof in the Table of Nations. You might want to go ahead and watch that. And, well, that's the same one. Okay. So we have the sons of Yapheth. Remember, Yapheth got the blessing first when the serpent bites the heel of the seed of the woman. So after the serpent bites the heel of the seed of the woman, that would be Yehoshua, he bit the heel of Yehoshua, sent him to the ground for 3 days and 3 nights, and rose from the dead. It was Rome who did it. It was Rome who killed him. Remember, and I know you guys are going to try to say, no, it was the Jews. Let me show you something. Over to the Gentiles. See that? He'll be handed over to the Gentiles to be mocked, flogged, and crucified. The Jews might be guilty for plotting his murder, but their sin is handing Yehoshua over to the Gentiles to be mocked, flogged, and crucified. So the serpent bit the heel of the seed of the woman in this way. And he was raised from the dead. But it was the Gentiles. And which Gentiles was it who did it? It was the Romans. The Romans, the ones who have the red dragon at the Vatican. Okay? That should be simple enough for you. These Romans here. Now, so what I want to do is this. We're going to go over Gomer, the son of Yapheth. Gomer. Gomer was the eldest son of Yapheth, and the father of Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah, according to the table of nations. Now, we have gone over that Ashkenaz are the German tribes in Europe. Riphath would be the Gauls and the Celts. I have proven that to you time and time again. Togarmah, it is in Anatolia. Okay? Magog. Of the 7 sons of Yapheth mentioned in the Table of Nations in Genesis 10. Okay. The origin of the term is not clear. His name indicates a person or a tribe or a geographical reality, country or city in the book of Ezekiel, and pagan Magog, people in the north of the world, and metaphorically represents the evil forces which associates it with apocalyptic traditions. Okay. Magog is often associated with apocalyptic traditions, mainly in connection with Ezekiel 38:39. Okay. Josephus refers to Magog, son of Yapheth, as progenitors of the Scythians, or people of the north of the Black Sea. And that would be quite accurate. If you go look north of the back, that would be Kiev and Rus. Okay? Now, Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried does not know what he's talking about. That because the Mongols are of Sinim and the Hittites, which were Canaanites. I have gone over that extensively. All right. Madai. Bible scholars have identified Madai with the Armenian Medes of much later. This right here is not even difficult. It's not difficult at all, because the Medes and the Persians had a empire together with the Medo-Persian Empire. That's not difficult. Yavan, that's Greece, was the 4th son of Noah, Japheth, or Yapheth, according to the generations of Noah. The Greeks are what religion is Greece of? The Christians, of course. So far. Now, most of this are Christian here. Believe that the individuals were the ancestors of the Greeks. Everybody knows this. This is not difficult. All right, so we go to Tubal. Modern scholars have identified him with Tabal. That would be in those days in Turkey. Traditionally, that's the old days, but people scattered about. He is considered to be the father of the Caucasian Iberians. ancestors of the Georgians. Okay, according to primary sources. Jerome refashioned the Caucasian Iberia, Georgia, into the Iberian Peninsula, which would be not accurate. That's not accurate. I guess Georgia today. All right. And being that, listen folks, being that Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia today, that assessment is probably accurate. Okay? Now we go to the next one. What, by the way, what religion are they? Christian. Now remember, Greece, Yavan, is the father of Rome. Don't forget that. Meshach is mentioned along with Tubal and Rosh in certain translations as principalities of Gog, the prince of Magog. It is considered a Yaphetic tribe, identified by Flavius Josephus with the Cappadocian Mushki, also associated with Phrygians or Brigas to the ancient Balkans. Now they also have been pushed out into the north, and they were pushed out into the north by the great invasion of the Arabs into Asia Minor. Okay, as you can see, Turkey is Asia Minor. It was Hellenistic in the Roman times. Okay. The Aryans were Illyrians were identified as Meshach's offspring. So, what is this? Indo-European speaking who inhabited Western Balkans Peninsula. Okay. And were identified as Meshach's offspring. In addition, Georgians having traditions that they and other Caucasus people such as Armenians share descent of Meshach, Georgia. So they're all kind of mixed up, and Togarma. Alright, so we'll go to the next one. Tyrus. According to the seventh of the youngest son of Yapheth, and by the way, those are also Christian. Hebrew son of Yapheth in the Hebrew Bible, brother of biblical Yavan, who is associated with the Greek people. Its geographical locale is sometimes associated by the scholars with the Tershi or Tursa, one of the groups which made up the Sea peoples, Tyrrhenians. That would be in Italy. A naval confederation which terrorized Egypt and other Mediterranean nations around 1200 BCE. The Sea peoples are referred to as Tursa, an inscription of the Ramesses III, and as Tarshish of the sea. Basically, the Sea people. Some theologians associate Tyrus with Thrace, and that would be accurate as well. Now, Thrace is actually a part of Turkey today, but they are the European section of Turkey. They are what? Christians. Next, Ashkenaz is the first son of Gomer, a Yaphetic patriarch in the Table of Nations. In rabbinic literature, the descendants of Ashkenaz were first associated with the Scythian peoples, well, because they traveled around, and later with the Slavic territories, and from the 11th century onward with Germany and Northern Europe, or the Indo-European people. They are the Northern Europe. Alright, next. And who were they? What language are they? Christian. Christian. And who do these Christians worship? The dragon. Yapheth had the blessing first. They persecuted the woman. They persecuted the Jews. Germans did too, especially. Yapheth. They say his identity is completely unknown. No, it's not. He was supposed by Flavius Josephus to have been the ancestor of the Riphians, now called Phagalians. Hippolytus of Rome made him the ancestors of the Sarmatians, as distinct from the Sarmatians, whom he called the descendants of Yapheth's eldest brother, Ashkenaz. Yapheth has often been connected with the Riphian mountains of classic Greek geography, whose foothills in the Aramaspi, also known as whatever, were said to live. These generally regarded as the western branch of the Ural Mountains. Now, August Wilhelm Nobel proposed that Yapheth began the Celtic peoples, who according to Plutarch had crossed from the Riphian mountains while en route to northern Europe. Smith's Bible Dictionary also forwards Nobel's notion that the Carpathian Mountains in the northeast of Dacia is the site of the Yapheth or Riphian Mountains. Some versions of the Middle Irish work Lebor Gabala Aren give as an alternate name Yapheth Scott, son of Gomer, in place of Phineas Farsa, as Scythian ancestor of the Goidels. You see that? You see that? Read it. Read it carefully. I told you. The Celts and the Gauls. Togarma. Now, let's see here. Most scholars identify Togarma with the capital city called Tagarama by the Hittites and Til-Gamaru by the Assyrians. Several later ethnological traditions have claimed Togarma as a legendary ancestor of various peoples located in Western Asia and the Caucasus. Jewish historian Flavius Josephus and the Christian theologians Jerome and Isidore of Seville regarded Togarma as the father of the Phrygians. Once again, Anatolia. And Eusebius of Caesarea and Bishop Theodoret regarded him as the father of the Armenians. Medieval Jewish tradition linked him to several peoples, Turkic including Khazars. And so we're talking this general area right here, if you can see that. Turkey, Armenia, southern Russia, Ukraine, etc. They all go back to the history of Armenia and medieval Georgian chronicles. Targamos was thought to have lived in Babylon before he received the land between the two seas and the two mountains. Land between the two seas and the two mountains. I guess they're talking about the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea? Or the Mediterranean Sea, or maybe it's the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea that they're talking about. So you know it's around the same general area. All right, so you're getting an idea. Let's go to the next one. Elisha, son of Yapheth, according to the book in Genesis. According to Jewish Encyclopedia, Elisha, well, they're saying scholars often identify Elisha with the Cypriots. As in ancient times, the island of Cyprus, or part of it, was known as Alasia. That's interesting. So it appears Cyprus, according to Jewish Encyclopedia, Elisha is to be identified with Magna Graecia and Silis, Sicily. They're saying Sicily. But there are obviously islands in the Mediterranean Sea. Judean historian Flavius Josephus related the descendants of Elisha to the Aeolians. That would be in Greece, of the ancestral branches of the Greeks. I'm going to think, I think that I'll probably go with the Cypriots, but some people even link them to Germany. Anyway, but who are these people again? Christian. Now, yeah, still Christian. Tarshish. Well, we all know where Tarshish is. It's Tartessos. That's in that's not even hard to understand here. Okay, that's in the southern point of Portugal. What religion are they? Christian. Kittim was a settlement in the present-day Lakama or Larnaca on the east coast of Cyprus. So obviously Kittim, I talked about that before, is Cyprus. Dodanim, or Rhodes. We know where that is. Or Rodanum, that would be Rhodes. You know, the island of Rhodes. You can look that up. Island of Rhodes. Okay, right here. What religion? Christian. You see what's going on here, folks? Now, let's go over something for a minute, folks. I don't think I need any of these anymore. You can do this, your research at home, where he shall rule the Gentiles with a rod of iron. Okay? She brought forth a man-child who was to rule all the Gentiles with a rod of iron. Now, what I want to do is we're going to go find another scripture. Other scriptures which talk about that. All right. I don't know why I'm not able to scroll down. And I'm also experienced internet outages a lot lately for some reason. Too much. Let's do this. Gentiles with the rod of iron. Okay. We're going to open a new tab here. Open a new tab here. Open a new tab here. And we're going to look at each and every one of these. Psalm 2 and verse 9. And why are they raging? Why do the goy rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against Yehovah. They've changed all the names. They've rejected everything, Jewish, including the Elohim of Israel. Okay? They set themselves up, and the leaders take counsel together against Jehovah and against his anointed, his Mashiach. This is exactly what happens in Revelation 12. They take counsel together against his Mashiach. Right here. You see it. Tear away the bond and cast away. They don't want to have anything to do with the Mashiach. This is the Gentiles doing this. He that sits in the Shemayim shall laugh. Adonai shall be mock them. And speak with anger and vex them with great burning anger. Because I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. Recount the decree Jehovah has said. Son, this day have I begotten you. Inquire. I will give you the Gentiles, the goy, for your property, and the uttermost parts of the earth for your possession, and you shall break them down with a rod of iron, and you shall dash them into pieces like a potter's vessel. Why? Why would the Mashiach break down these sons of Japheth who, look, the table of nations, here's what it says. By these are the coastlands of the goy, divided in their lands. We're talking about Japheth. The Christians are going to have their heads bashed in with a rod of iron. And Yehoshua is going to take their land and them as a possession. That is why it is written right here, where it says Jehovah enlarges Yapheth, but he ends up dwelling in the tents of Shem, aka Israel. Because the seed that the children of Japheth, who were beguiled by Satan, who were brainwashed by Satan, killed the Mashiach. And then set about trying to exterminate all of the Mashiach's brothers and sisters, the Jews. Because you see, in Romans 11, you cannot say that the Jews are no longer Yehoshua's brothers and sisters, because Paul said this, and he warned the Romans, the sons of Yapheth. He warned them. Verse 19, you Romans will say that branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Their heel was bitten so that the Gentiles might be grafted in. They were made lower so the Gentiles might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and you now stand by faith. Do not be high-minded but fear, because if Jehovah spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not you either. Look at the uprightness, the excellence of Jehovah, and severity of Jehovah upon them which fell severity, but toward you uprightness and excellence, if you continue in his uprightness and excellence, otherwise you also shall be cut off. What did they do? They set about to try to exterminate the Jews, just like it is written in Revelation 12. They set about to exterminate the Jews. The dragon persecutes Israel. Thus, great serpent persecutes Israel. Folks, here, this is all your evidence that you're going to need. Do not be like the children of Japheth. Do not be easily deluded. As I pointed out to you, how the sons of Yapheth are easily deluded. And this young man that I tried to explain this, he knows, but he doesn't care. He said he knows, but he really doesn't care. See, I'm not going to tell a lie to make these people happy. I'm not going to use the name Jesus to make these people happy. He knows he's wrong, and he's going to do it anyway. That is willfully, sin willfully. And I'm warning you all against this. Let's try again. Maybe I have to take away an L. There it is right there. Hebrews 10 verse 26. Does not say if we deliberately keep on sinning after we see the context, folks. Context. This is why I tell you King James Version is really messed up. If we sin voluntarily after we have received the knowledge of the truth. It's just talking about the knowledge of the truth. So you receive the knowledge of the truth and you know it's the truth, but you're going to go ahead and tell the lie anyway. That's exactly what he's talking about. This is talking about truth, folks. So if we willingly sin after we've received the knowledge of the truth, you've received the knowledge of the truth and you rejected the truth, this is a sin, there is no more sacrifice for sins. That is the reason why Christianity is going to have their heads beat in with a rod of iron. When Yehoshua, not Jesus, but Yehoshua comes to right the wrongs that have been perpetrated upon the Jews all of these years by the deluded sons of Japheth. You have been warned, you have heard. There are no excuses to be had. And folks, let me illustrate to you the ridiculousness of the sons of Japheth. Okay? So, not only the sons of Japheth, but also sons of Ham. But anyway, so everybody knew that when Donald Trump was going to be elected, and this has nothing to do with Donald Trump, I'm just talking about the easily deceived and deluded and simple and ridiculously idiotic peoples of Japheth and Ham, quite frankly. They knew after Donald Trump was going to be elected that there was going to be tariffs all over the place. Okay? Now there's tariffs, right? There ought to be a mass of people flooding Walmarts, Roses, whatever stores that you have to go get clothing, socks, coats, whatever. Because China has been making almost all of them. The folks in China should have seen this coming. They should have been prepared. They're not prepared. And the sons of Japheth are not prepared at all. They're just standing there watching and looking. They're not preparing themselves at all for what is about to happen. Now that's nothing compared to be what is going to happen to the Gentiles when the two witnesses arrive at the scene to gather all Israel together. And I know some of you are just like that fellow I pointed out in the first part of this video. Some of you are hard-headed. You know what I'm telling you is true, but you're going to continue to do the same thing you keep on doing and telling the same lies you keep telling. You're going to have to answer for that. Every idle word. So you want to use the name Jesus instead, huh? Every idle. Matityahu, not Matthew. 12 verse 36. Verse 36. Either make the tree beautiful and its fruit delicious, or make the tree corrupt and its fruit corrupt. For the tree is known by his fruit. O generation of vipers, in those days, was the Jew. Today, it is the Gentile. How can you, being evil, speak righteous things? You can't. Because out of the heart, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. A righteous man out of the righteous treasure in his heart brings forth righteous things. An evil man out of his evil treasure brings forth evil things. This is the reason why Dwayne is a conspiracy theorist about the Jews. because the Christians, the entire religion of Christianity, are conspiracy theorists about the Jews. But I say unto you that every idle word that a man shall speak, like using the name God or Deus instead of Jehovah, or using the name Jesus or Jesus instead of Yehoshua, at every idle word that men shall speak, they will give an account thereof in the day of judgment. For by your words, so if you tell the truth, then you're going to produce truthful fruits. By your words you shall be justified. By the words that come out of your mouth you shall be justified, and by the words that come out of your mouth you shall be condemned.